Good. So what was
Congratulations, Pags, on the 8th Philly All-Stars, by the way. But don't comment on that because Max in football, but I just wanted to congratulate you.
Congrats.
I did what?
8 Philadelphia Phillies are elected to the All-Star team, but don't comment on it because Max on football now, so let him finish.
Well, we're talking football, but I also went to my first ever boxing match yesterday, so I hope we have a little time to talk about that too.
So Pags, what I'm talking about is identity, right? I mean, is the Dallas Cowboys problem identity instead of just? I mean, they have a good team. They have a very good team. And then you look at the San Francisco 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles, and if they're playing what kind of ball they should be playing on the front line, pounding you, that's their identity, right?
I don't know that that's their identity, but I feel like that. All right, so to answer your question, do I feel that the Cowboys' problem is their identity? No. I do feel, though, that there are times where you get in your own head. And I feel like that may have happened last year with the game against the Packers, that they realize that, or they feel like they can't win, or things start to happen badly in the game, and they start to get like quicksand, where they start to just sink, and they don't know how to get out of it.
Well, you were not when I said this, and if I talk to you about, and Jack and James can comment on this too, when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, what do you think of?
I think of the Steel Curtain.
Right? I mean, Jack, if you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you think of a tough, aggressive team, right? I mean, you don't think of too much. I mean, they had Lynn Swann, they had all those things. But even today, you're going to go play the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going to have to button up your chin strap if you want a chance at winning that. Wouldn't you think that?
Well, that's a team's identity going back for decades, a style of play, going back from the time of the Steel Curtain to today and all the players. That defense in 2008, Mac, that wasn't a historic defense. I mean, I don't want to hear about that. They had to rally and get, a touchdown at the end of the game. Yeah, the historic defense gave up the touchdown to Larry Fitzgerald, which easily could have lost the game. So I don't want to hear about a historic defense. Something like the Baltimore Raven defense with Ray Lewis, that was much more historic than that particular Steeler team. The Steel Curtain, you could say that was a historic defense. We look back on that. But, the Steelers do have that identity. Hard-nosed, the style of play that, they use. But that's a large part because they've only had something like 3 coaches in the last 50 years, okay? Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, now Mike Tomlin. They don't change coaches, so it's easy to have an identity when you have the same coach all along. When you have different coaches, you might lose that identity.
That's a great point. But again, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, if you're going to build a team, you got to build a team with something in mind, right? You can't just, like I said, you could go out and you could get the best wide receiver, and not that doesn't make you a throwing team. I mean, you've got to have something that sets you apart. And I think if you look at the history of certain teams, if they don't have the identity they had then, they end up losing their way. And I'll give you an example. New York Giants. The New York Giants had an identity at one time. They were a hard-running team. They threw when they had to throw, and they played good defense. And that wasn't just back with the Blue Wrecking Crew. That was later on when they played the Patriots too. They had the big running backs, and they would come at you. I think Pags doesn't think that, but I think Philadelphia has identity because he really didn't comment on it. I think Philadelphia beat you up on the line of scrimmage, and that's their identity. And the rest come, right? You're going to throw the ball great. You're going to whatever. They beat you up. And I think Philadelphia right now, even with Sirianni not being there a long time, already has an identity. I think they've always had that identity. Back to the 80s and 90s, the Philadelphia Eagles are coming to beat you up. And whether it's like Kansas City that has maybe a different identity or some other teams, they have one. And I think that's a problem a lot of teams come into, including the Saints. I don't think the Saints have an identity, James.
I agree. What I will say is, in regards to the history of the game, we're talking about identities. Most times, identity is coupled with innovation or a pioneer of sorts. We're talking about like maybe Chicago Bears when they had the coach that used to coach. Well, he ended up coaching the Philadelphia Eagles after he left Chicago. He had the 46 defense. Yes.
Buddy Ryan,
absolutely. So you look at a guy like that. I mean, that defense, that like Jack said, a defense like that really just dominated. That's what took them all the way to the Super Bowl. Of course, they had a good running back, a great, probably arguably the greatest running back in the history of the game to help them as well. And you could also say innovation with San Francisco. Bill Walsh with his West Coast offense. So many teams and different coaches have spawned from that and taken their version of a West Coast offense that they still play it to this day. So innovation is one of the key components to having an identity. And so I would say, yeah, like you said, the Saints don't really have an identity right now. I totally agree with that. We'll see how they do. But that innovation is one of the things I think that having a successful team. Tampa Bay, the Tampa 2, that's also another defense you can say that ended up winning in 2002 because of the style of defense that they had.
Identities could run outside of the players. It could be a stadium that has a reputation as the loudest place to play. So the offense is concerned about being able, the quarterback to call the signals, the other players to hear. They could be concerned about all the distractions that they're going to have. That could be an identity, of a stadium, a fan base, making it difficult on an opposing team. And even the Eagle fans, a visiting team comes in, the Eagle fans have an identity of making it difficult for the opposing team. And it's on the opposing team's mind. They're coming into Philadelphia. They're not just competing against the Eagles, but in a sense, they're competing against the whole stadium that they got to conquer the outside distractions.
I would say that's right. Great points all around. And as you see, the Philadelphia Eagles maintained that defensive line, that and not compared to Reggie White and some of the great, maybe the Jerome Browns. But man, their front four has been something else even to today.
No Hassan Reddick this year, so let's see what the Eagles transition from Bryce Huff. I think.
Hold on, you guys don't have Hassan Reddick either, right? Not yet.
Well.
Okay, just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that you're on that same boat, because Hassan Reddick didn't get as many sacks last year, and is holding out because obviously he thinks he's better than he is. That was his MO. That was his MO in Philly. And he liked to chirp, and started to become a cancer. He's already become a cancer in the Jets organization.
The season hasn't begun. Let's relax. The preseason game, he'll be there, Hassan Reddick, getting those sacks and being a big time player for the Jets. I mean, he'll do.
But your guy who led the team in sacks last year, he's an Eagle now, right?
Yeah, but he was.
Just wanted to make sure.
He was a little bit of a system player, a system type player.
Well, guess what? Guess what? Our system's better. So just
that's tough. The Jets defense is no joke. That's a tough comparison. I mean, that would be a heck of a physical game. The Jets defense and the Philadelphia offensive line and the defense. That would be a great game in the trenches anyway. So of course my Giants are on Hard Knocks and we're watching them letting Saquon Barkley go and what their thought process was to maybe use that extra salary cap, which the NFL gave an extra salary cap to sign more players than just pay Saquon Barkley. I mean, the biggest thing I took away from that letting Saquon go was that it's Daniel Jones. They weren't going to pay a $45 million quarterback to hand off to a $20 million running back. That was their reason for letting him go. Of course, I think Jalen Hurts is making close to that. He will be handing off to a pretty expensive
$12 million
running back.
to a
Yes.
$12 million.
I'm going to
Right.
tell you this, guys. The Eagles play in the Meadowlands this year. Obviously, they play a game
On my birthday, by the way.
every year. Right. If the Eagles dominate that game and Saquon Barkley is sensational, can you imagine the crowd reaction, the pressure that's going to be on the GM, Joe Shine, and the whole organization, that if Barkley is a dynamic running back this year, and if he stays healthy, he is. Saquon Barkley is going to be one of the best running backs in the NFL if he stays healthy this year. But could you imagine how ugly it could get for the Giants if they're blown out and Saquon has like 3 touchdowns, 150 yards, catching the ball out of the backfield? Man, that's going to be entertaining to watch.
It definitely will.
Yeah.
Definitely will.
The Giants made a mistake. I think they made a tremendous mistake. They should have traded him before they let him go. I think you don't let him go to your in-division rival and be motivated to come back on you. And to a team that has weapons on the outside where he doesn't have to have 8 in the box to beat him up. You just don't do that. And he's a star running back. He doesn't have to have all the pressure on him to be like what he had with the Giants, because he was the main focus of the offense. I agree with Jack. He's really going to have a great year, and it's just unfortunate that they let him go to that. I mean, he's going to tear them up, I think, to be honest with you.
Are you happy with this Hard Knocks? Because I tell you, every video that I watch of the Giants from Hard Knocks shows a little bit of ineptness.
Yes.
And that's beyond anything else. Like, I don't know if that's what they were trying to show, like that they were accentuating some of the decisions that they made that show how inept they are, but it's bad. Like if I was a fan of this franchise, I'd really be concerned about how ownership is putting people in place moving forward.
I think there were way too many people involved in a process, and they looked, I don't want to say weak bags, they looked undecided about a lot of things.
Inept. Inept.
Yeah.
That's why I think that's the perfect word there.
They were telling GM Joe Shine what he wanted to hear, basically. He's giving him a whole list of running backs who he feels could basically replace Saquon Barkley at a much cheaper price. And I'm thinking you could put all these guys together and they don't equal up to Saquon Barkley. He's taking Saquon Barkley, if he's healthy, he can be a superstar next year. Not just a very good player, superstar. And he might be the most dynamic play on the Eagle offense next year. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not saying he will be, but potentially he could be. And they're just, figuring out he's just a running back. Just that attitude. I don't need a $40 million quarterback handing it off to, Saquon Barkley. That's demeaning and that's insulting. I don't think the Giants were counting on him getting the other offer. They thought maybe he's not going to get an offer and we'll be able to re-sign him at our price.
That nobody was going to pay him $12 million a year. That's what they said it out loud. Nobody's going to do it. And they were wrong.
And I watched I watched the interview process a little bit. I'm not a fan of off season especially training camp. I'm not interested in that hardly at all. But I watched Brian DeBall with the quarterbacks, with the top 3 quarterbacks, quizzing them, show me your right play, calling plays, having them repeat it. What do you do if this happens? And what do you do if that happens? Kind of interesting. But I mean, you're talking to college quarterbacks you're pretty much running a college offense now in the NFL. It's a spread offense for the most part. The terminology might be a little bit different, but it's basically the same kind of reads if you're a good quarterback. I think they kind of passed by Jayden Daniels if they had a chance to get him. If they moved up, they kind of were like he was hurt. I don't know. I mean, told the Patriots guy, call me before you trade the third pick in the first round. Let us have a chance. Maybe they were thinking of getting Drake May, which I think would have been a terrible pick. But I don't know, Pags. It was really confusing to me as some of the things as they're watching the 40-yard dash and who cares. The interviews were kind of interesting. I mean, DeBall has coached some of the great quarterbacks. I mean, he did coach Jalen Hurts. He did coach Tua. He did coach Brett Favre. He did coach Josh Allen. I mean, he's been around a lot of quarterbacks and maybe has some good knowledge. I don't know. It's a different type of series for sure. And I'm a little frustrated with some of the things I saw for sure. You know, I really
Yeah,
was.
it's scary. It's scary because I think it's very possible the Giants could be the worst team in the league this year. That they're going to have a really big problem. Somebody had mentioned that the over/under on them scoring touchdowns this year for the entire season could be under 15.
I wouldn't. I'm a realist, Pags. If the Giants go 6 or 7 wins, I'll be happy this year. Be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that's pie in the sky. I think that's very pie in the sky.
No, the fan base won't be happy with another 6-11, even a 7-10. I mean, then Daniel Jones has to be gone. And you know what we're going to be hearing? The big buzz we're going to be hearing. You mentioned earlier, Mac, Arch Manning. Oh, Arch Manning coming to the Giants. That would energize the fan base. Another Manning. But he's going to play college football.
I can't wait for that to happen.
If Manning plays this year, there's always a chance, he'll enter the NFL draft next year. And if the Giants are picking very high in the order, I mean, who knows? I mean, fan bases love stuff like that, just like the Laker fans and all of us talk about Bronny James with the Lakers. Manning would replace Bronny James, like in the news. He'd follow every little thing Manning did. We're doing it now to an extent.
I think that if the Giants don't do better this year, that Shine and DeBall are in a lot of trouble. And I think they kind of were exposed a little bit. I think this worked against them a little bit, doing this type of series instead of going to a training camp and just spotlighting players. I think what they did was they allowed these guys behind the scenes and, like the Wizard of Oz, what's behind the curtain. And they kind of got a little peek at that. And I don't think a lot of people are very happy at what they saw. And I think they exposed themselves. I think it was a kind of a crazy idea. Listen, I think the Giants defense will be fine next year. I think their running game will be okay. Jones, I don't know if Neighbors is going to make a big splash or not. We'll find out. But I have no perceived notions of them, being a very good team this year or maybe an average team this year. I think that's where they're about. And if they surprise me, great, but I doubt that. I doubt that very much. So, I'm ready for another long year. I really am. So that's it.
Well, who are they going to beat out? That's the question. Look at their division. You got the Eagles. They probably don't beat them out. The Cowboys, they probably don't beat them out. And the Commanders look to be in a little bit of an upswing. So they're going to be hard to beat out. So you might,
it's going to be like, I think 3 or 4 wins for the Giants. Just saying. I'm just saying.
I don't know. The schedule's not hard.
It may not be hard, but I don't think you guys have. I don't think that you guys have anybody on offense at all to put the ball in the zone.
Malik Neighbors could be outstanding.
I think, we got to see what he does. But yeah, I agree with Malik Neighbors.
Who's throwing the ball? That's the problem. You have. It's inept across the board. You guys got another receiver, but you still didn't upgrade your line at all. You still got Daniel Jones as the quarterback there, and if he gets hurt, you have then DiNucci. You know what I mean? So it's like
we have Drew Lock.
You do. You do have Drew Lock. So there's that.
I mean, he's a competent back. Okay, he's not.
What I think too in football, a lot has to do with chemistry, right? And if they, not to put down the Eagles, Bags, I don't want to get you upset, but we beat you at the end of the year with a second string quarterback, and the chemistry on your team kind of fell off with all your talent. So, I mean, there are other parts besides just, who your quarterback is or your line is not as good as my line. There's a lot more to football than just players and that. So I don't know. To be honest with you, like I said, Pags, I don't think they'll win only 3 games, but I know they're not going to be in the playoff hunt. That's for sure. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, you made a point about the Eagles. I got the feeling, Pags, at the end of the season, and this sounds bad to say, the Eagles just gave up when they fell apart. They just kind of gave up as a unit. So what would now they have a long winter, that every team starts over. If they get off to a little bit of a slow start, even not, why would things be different? Why would the attitude be better coming into training camp? I know you're a little recharged with certain moves. They lost leadership in Jason Kelsey retiring, but got a big spark, Saquon Barkley. Other moves were made, other good moves were made. I think it's a lot to do with attitude with a team like the Eagles. What's their attitude going to be? A.J. Brown is saying the right things. It's unpredictable right now. And maybe they pick up from where they left off, which would make it a long season, which would make it a 7-10, 8-9 season, or maybe they go back to being the Super Bowl type team they were before, and they'll be a 13-4 type team. The Eagles are intriguing because we just don't know what the chemistry of that team is going to be. A team like the Chiefs are going to have excellent chemistry. You know that. But the Eagles, it's unpredictable. It could go either way.
Well, I want you to keep thinking that as we start the season. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't think that we start the season all that great. I think that we start the season 2-2, which would not be a really great start in the grand scheme of things. But I think after all is said and done, that you're going to see us in the NFC Championship game. And then we'll have to see what happens then. I have us going to the NFC Championship. I don't think that the NFC is strong enough. I think that this Ayuk situation is just starting to poke holes into what we think is a big, strong, firm entity. I think that you're starting to see little cracks in the armor there. And I think that Detroit is really the only other team that's going to that has enough talent to be able to get to that area. I don't think that there's the strength amongst all of the teams this year that even last year. Like last year, you had Green Bay that came on strong at the end. Dallas came on strong at the end and then blew it to Green Bay. In Tampa, I won't say Tampa came on strong. I feel like that the Eagles fell off. That the Eagles lost that game more than Tampa won that game. And there was nothing that the Eagles could do to get around it. So, yeah, there is going to be some concern. There is some concern. Is Barkley going to remain healthy? That's a big deal. If he gets hurt like in a similar manner to Rodgers, it's like, is that deflating enough that it could bring the entire offense down? That they're just like, oh, you know what I mean? And then that's how they play. So yes, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Pags, I would be more concerned about the coaching. You got 2 new coordinators this year, putting in maybe different or new systems. And you had talent last year, even without Barkley. You had talent. You had talent.
We had 2 brand new coordinators last year that had very limited expertise.
Yeah, I agree.
They haven't been doing this for a while. And I'm not sold on Kellen Moore yet. I've watched all the Cowboys fans complain about Kellen Moore. I watched all that occur. Vic Fangio is obviously been around for a very long time, but he's not a player's coach. Does that mean that he's got a shelf life? How long do the people want to listen to him? Everything seems great while they're winning. When they're not winning, things start to go awry very quickly. So that's going to be some of the important things that's got to get dealt with this season.
So to finish it up, you guys got Saquon Barkley. You're loaded. You're loaded on offense. There's no doubt about that. Defense, I don't know if you're loaded or not, but you're definitely loaded on offense. So if you have a season like last year, or you don't make the playoffs for some reason, is this when they start looking at Nick Sirianni?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah, they're going to look within there, because on paper, the Eagles are one of the best teams.
Yes,
when you put it out there on the field, just because it's done on paper, if we come out and if we're 4-4 after the first 8 games, they may make a change right away.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting to see something like that. I know you guys, well, probably you all have heard of Richie Incognito, offensive lineman who was some people considered maybe a little dirty, at least very physical. And he was on the show and he's got his own podcast. And he was saying that back when he played, of course, you hear all the stories, they would rip your head off. Now it's more fun. It's faster. And I agree to a point with that. I think maybe the spread offense has made it a little bit more exciting. But when I look at who gets in the playoffs, and of course back then, even when he played and before he played, you had Dan Fouts, Eric Coryell, you had the run and shoot offense. I mean, there were variations of some exciting offenses. But when you look at who ends up in the Super Bowls, in the championship games, it comes down to the physical teams. Kansas City was very physical last year. That's how they won that Super Bowl. They had a physical running game, a physical defense. The Eagles, when they went to a championship game, physical to a Super Bowl, physical team. The 49ers, a physical defense, a physical running game. I think that we look at games during the regular season and we look at some games and say, wow, this is 40-34. But when you get down to it, it's still the old school football that wins the games. Who wants it more? Who's more physical? Who imposes whose will on the other team? And that's who ends up winning the Super Bowls. Granted, KC had a couple very exciting teams, but their defense made some big plays. Last year, their defense pretty much carried them. And what are your thoughts, guys? Do you think that football has really gone past to where it was before? And will that carry teams on to win Super Bowls in the very near future? Just having a better offense, a more exciting team.
I think that they're still trying to change the game to where passing offenses are going to succeed more so than defenses, because you got to realize, I mean, the changes in defenses or what you can do on defense are still occurring. This upcoming season, I think a lot of people are not talking about it, but the hip tackle or whatever that's outlawed now, has been banned. So that's going to change a lot of things. How else are you supposed to tackle a guy? I mean, I don't get it. So that's going to change. A lot of guys are going to freeze up. They're going to, not to be as physical, I think. I mean, it's going to be physical, but it's going to be different. I think offenses are going to flourish because of that rule this particular season. But a good running game and a great defense is typically, like you said, is what wins championships. But we'll see how that goes.
I still think that it's going to be defense that wins championships, and it's going to be the defenses that can evolve past whatever rule they came up to stop opposing offenses. They're going to be the teams that win championships. It's just that simple.
I would agree with that too. So I want to get Pags didn't do this. Jack hasn't done this. Me and James did this. I want to get your early. We've talked about the NFC East. I want to get your early predictions. What you think right now? Who finishes where? What their record is, and why? So we'll start with Jack. Jack didn't participate this Wednesday night. I want to get what his thoughts are on the four and why you picked them in that four, the order.
What division are we talking about?
NFC East, Jack.
Well, the Cowboys and Eagles are towards the top. I mean, and I'm not quite ready to pick the Commanders to join that group, even though the Commanders on an upswing, and I wouldn't be shocked to see the Commanders go 9-8. Maybe the next year's Houston Texans ready to take the leap up all of a sudden. And like I said a moment ago about the Eagles, I just don't know how they're going to take off. If it's accurate what Pax says, they're going to go 2-2. Are they going to take off from 2-2? Are they going to be mediocre going forward if they're 2-2 after that? It's unpredictable. I mean, in other words, will the real Philadelphia Eagle team stand up? Well, it remains to be seen. The Cowboys have been 12-5 the last 3 years. They made no moves. Are they the same team as they were before? If they are, they should be fine. I mean, they should win 10, 11 games, shouldn't they, guys? Let's forget what happened in the playoffs. They've been consistent the last 3 years. These picks don't count right now. They're very conservative. I could change them when I make my final picks, but I would think the most conservative viewpoint would be right now, it would say Eagles 1, Cowboys 2, Commanders 3, Giants 4. But Mac, you mentioned a good point. The Giants have a really good defense. What happens if their defense becomes truly elite and their offense becomes just good enough to be average, let's say? The Giants could conceivably be a factor, but I'm not feeling it for them. I'm sorry, Mac. So I'd say, Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants, but I'm going to evaluate the Commanders a little more closer to the season because they might be the surprise team of the NFL this year.
Pags, I would, we talked a little bit. I know you're thinking the Eagles will be in first place. Give us a couple of reasons, give us the order, a couple of reasons why you think the teams will finish where they're at. You already spoke on the Giants, so I know they're in last. But go ahead and give me what your thoughts are.
So I believe I'm a little different than Jack. I feel, obviously, I do think that the Eagles are going to be in first, and I have them going 12-5. It could be 11-6. I mean, the first 3 games of our season are like away games. Even though one's a home game in Brazil, it's like an away game. So that's the 7 away games, listed away games in the first 12 weeks of the season is going to be a gauntlet to start off because one of those away games is really a home game in Brazil. So the fact that we've got 8 games away in the first 12 weeks is going to be very, very tough. That being said, I have it Washington number 2, not because they're great, but because I think that they are going to maintain and have taken a small step forward. I feel that the wheels are coming off in Dallas. I said this last year. I thought that Dallas was going to do this, and it didn't occur. And it fell apart at the very, very, very end when the Packers go into Dallas and just manhandled them and destroyed them. I feel that this is the year where it all falls apart, where the wheels do just completely fall off. And you're right. I do. The Giants may have been possibly the worst team that they could have chosen to do this Hard Knocks with, because I feel that the NFL is licking their chops to look at New York on the schedule. And I feel that they're going to be a train wreck this year. And I don't know that even if they fire the coach and fire the GM, that it's going to stop being a train wreck for a couple of years. I feel that this is now that's an ownership thing, not a personnel thing anymore.
James, give us your thoughts. I got a couple different opinions than what they've given, but give me your order and why.
I got the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants, and last but not least, but the Commanders. I just think the Eagles are super talented on paper, and I think last year was a bit of an anomaly. If I'm going off the talent that they had going back to 2022 and their run all the way to the Super Bowl, I just think that they kept the team intact and they added on. I think it's a matter of the coordinator and getting making sure your quarterback is head in the game. I listened to Lane Johnson recently and on a podcast. He believes in his quarterback and he thinks he's super talented and he's the leader of the team. So I think that they'll right the ship and they'll, like Pack said, at least be NFC Championship bound, just based on the talent in the NFC. The Cowboys, I disagree with him about the Cowboys. I just think they're still talented enough to win 10, 11 games. And I think they have a wild card at least minimum. They didn't do anything at running back position. That's kind of weird, but they weren't great at running back last year either, and they still won 12 games. In their defense, I think there's a matter of like we mentioned earlier with Michael Parsons, his head's got to be in the game. If he's not in the game, I think that's if he's focused, I think he could change their defense and the trajectory of where they're going. The Giants, I can't believe they just did this or agree. Well, you have to do hard knocks, but that's like you said, that's just pretty devastating what's going on in some of the decision making. But I think they're talented enough to win 6. Their talent is coming along when they added Malik Neighbors and they added a defensive end from Burns out of Carolina. And they actually have a really good defense. So who's to say how many games they win? They can win 7 or 8 games. I don't know about 4. And I just don't think that the Commanders are just there yet. I mean, everything's on projection. You got a new coach, a new quarterback. We just don't know what they're going to do. So I have them at the bottom.
I would go with the Eagles too, just because they got probably one of the best 5 skilled players at positions: quarterback, running back, tight end, 2 wide receivers. Their linebacking crew has always been, for some reason, a little down. They lost a couple vets, as Jack said. We'll see. I think the Eagles win the division. I know if it's 12 or 11 wins, I think they win the division. I think Dallas has a lot more problems just running back. I think Dallas can't stop the run. I think they lost Gilmore. They let him go. I think Dallas is going to have problems with distractions with contracts too this year. I think Dallas is. I think they're teetering. I think Bill Belichick's kind of sitting back there looking at the Cowboys, the Giants, and saying, maybe I'll be coaching one of those teams next year. Again, I think the Giants, if they get 7 wins, I'll be happy. That's all I care about. And I agree with you. I think Washington, with a rookie quarterback, the new head coach, suspect defensive backfield. Their defense was suspect last year. Their offensive line got killed. The quarterback got killed last year. He was sacked more than any quarterback in the league. I think they're going to have a problem there, and it's going to take a couple of years for Washington to go ahead and make their move. So pretty close at all that. I mean, I don't know why Dallas didn't do upgraded either. They draft a lot. They don't do a lot of free agents, and that's just something they've done for a long time, especially since Jerry Jones has been there. And I don't understand why either. So NFL Steelers defensive back Cameron Sutton gets suspended on a personal conduct thing for domestic violence. Violence and strangulation, and he's suspended for 8 games. We see this a lot, guys. What interests me is the action taken by the NFL for different players. If, as Jack says, if this was Patrick Mahomes, would he be suspended for 8 games? I don't know the answer to that, and I think that the less valuable you are to your team and to the NFL, the less your punishment, as we saw with Rashad Rice. I don't know if you guys have any comments on that or not. It's just interesting to me. It depends on who the player is. Okay, all right. Me and Jack talked about Tom Landry on the Sports Memory Show. And I want to get your opinions on this because me and Jack and Doc have a Sports Memory Show on Saturday. We go back.
I'm going to have to, Mac, let me cut in because I'm going to have to exit by 9:45 sharp. The show, like I let you know this in advance.
Right.
So, and Pax was at the Bites Philadelphia last night. We don't have as much time to talk with Pax as I want because I didn't want to interfere with you talking about the football. But since I have to go very soon, Last night in Philadelphia, they had the biggest live crowd to see a boxing event in close to 50 years. Close to 50 years. I wasn't there, but Pax was there.
I was.
Pax was there. Boots Ennis stopped David Avanasian, who retired on the stool at the end of the 5th round. First of all, Pax, tell us about the atmosphere, the biggest crowd in all those years.
It was a loud crowd, and I like what they did in terms of they tried to get guys as close to Philly as possible. There was the one fight where the one guy was from Maryland, the other guy was from Jersey City. There was another guy from Philadelphia there. The ladies didn't really have any ties, and of course Boots Ennis, going up there, and doing his thing. He was the one who had most of the crowd. Obviously, it was a great crowd. It was over 14,000 people. It was my first ever boxing match, so it was a lot of fun to just kind of watch, and just see it all happen. Obviously watching the undercard. There was one fight that I thought would be so much better. They were talking so much smack, at the prelim, and pushing each other, and then it was just a dud of a fight. I thought it was just very boring.
Peter Dobson, that fight.
Yeah, that just didn't really have any panache to it. I thought the Boots, the Ennis Avanesian fight, Avanesian held his own. I feel like, and I was thinking about you a lot, Jack, in this, because, oh my God, now I'm trying to score, boxing. I don't pay attention, but obviously you watch how the fight's occurring and you say, okay, this is happening and this is happening. I thought that Avanesian actually, took a round, and when the low blow, I didn't know if they deduct a point from that or not. So I felt that was like maybe a 9-9.
No, what happened, Boots Ennis was being pulled down, so he landed a flagrantly low blow. Avanesian went down, and you're given up to 5 minutes to recover, and if you don't continue after 5 minutes, you lose the fight, but you can take the full 5 minutes under the rules, and he took about half of that or whatever yesterday. And the one round you thought he maybe took was maybe I think it was the second round.
The second round.
And it was close. I gave it to Boots, but I was thinking during the round, wow, Avanesian might actually be winning this round. But you can make a case for Avanesian having won the round.
Right. So, and that was the only, but I thought that Boots really had control of the fight. It was just really that flurry. The third round was actually very even until the very end, where I thought Boots had a flurry in the last 20
No, I don't
seconds.
think it. I think Boots basically was in control.
And maybe that's just because I don't know boxing well enough. You know what I mean? It was just like I thought that it was more evenly paced until the very end. I'm like, I think he's got to do something at the very end of this round to do it. But once he landed that one hit, it was over. It was over.
Boots is a Philadelphia fighter.
Yes.
He's from Philadelphia. Are the fans in Philadelphia now going to elevate him more? Is he going to be noticed a lot more? Kind of like as a mini franchise type, player.
Possibly. I was surprised at the amount of people. I mean, he had a tremendous amount of support. I want to say that there were thousands there supporting him, obviously. There were a few friends of mine that I had no idea grew up with him. So I started to talk a little bit about that. They showed some of his life as he was getting prepared for this fight, and they showed him his neighborhood and things like that. So it was just interesting to get to learn a little bit about him, because obviously I had no idea. And even talking to you, I still didn't really have an idea on who he was, but it was great to just be able to support a Philadelphia guy at the Wells Fargo Center, where it's like we're in Philadelphia. So obviously, I didn't think that there was any doubt that he would win this fight. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people who saw me there that were like, he could be one of the best fighters that nobody knows about right now.
He's trending towards a fight with Terrence Crawford. Crawford knocked out Avanesian in 6 rounds before. Different type of fight. Avanesian looked okay against Crawford, maybe even won 1 or 2 rounds, but Crawford always gives away early rounds. He's that type of tactician. He backs off. Crawford's not concerned in the slightest if he loses a round or 2. because he knows he's measuring his opponent, and then once he has it figured out, he finishes him. So the comparisons between the two, you could say in a way, were the same pretty much. So Boots didn't make that type of statement, but they're trending towards the super fight, Boots against Crawford someday. And if Boots wins that, Philadelphia could conceivably have the biggest name in boxing, being a Philadelphia fighter. But you don't know how the city will take to it, because Smoking Joe Frazier was from Philadelphia, but he wasn't considered as much of a Philadelphia fighter as some of, the lesser names.
Well, so obviously I don't know as much about boxing as you do, but the word, or the conversation going around, is that this is going to happen again a few more times, that they could have boxing 2 or 3 times a year now in Philadelphia, because right now Philadelphia's got a really good hub of boxers that are working their way up the ranks. I mean, we've spoken about Sonny Conto a number of times. We got Boots. There's another guy who's got a title, I feel, who's considered one of the best fighters pound for pound, in all of boxing. So I feel that this is the first of a few that could possibly occur.
Well, this could be a home base for Boots until he gets the ultimate fight. Keep fighting in Philadelphia, fight guys like Avanesian in Philadelphia, because he's not going to draw as many people anywhere else. And the Philadelphia fans will be great to support him. It's a great evening of entertainment, and he'll be their guy. And that's good if a fighter has a home base. That's great, because even most of the great fighters, they don't seem to have a home base exactly. Right. And let Philly, Las Vegas isn't going to be Boots' home base. And why should it be New York? That, even though I wouldn't be surprised to see him fight at the Garden, the Barclays Center, because the fans in Philadelphia could come down for that. But Philadelphia is a great, great home base for him to have.
I agree, and I look forward to going to another one very soon. I thought it was a lot of fun, and from a novice point of view, it was exciting. It was fun to watch. Even the ladies, actually, I thought had the second best fight of the night.
Yeah,
because everybody in our group, and there was a lot of influencers in our group, so we weren't boxing people, but we thought that Vargas was going to be she was just going to destroy the Australian, and the Australian was just a tactician. She just was a much better boxer.
I have to exit. I'm sorry, Pax. I got to exit a little early today. See you guys on the next show. Take care.
We'll see you tomorrow, Jack.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, but it was a tremendous amount of fun, and I did, like I said, I doing my reporting a little bit, like trying to show people what was going on. Had it live on Instagram for a little while. I was showing the fights and stuff like that. I actually recorded the entire female fight and the entire Boots fight.
Yeah,
So
I mean, listen, I'm a big fan of Boots Pags, and I think he is very close to Crawford. If he couldn't beat him, it'd be a heck of a fight. And he's been calling Crawford out for quite a while now. I think Boots is 31-0 right now, and Crawford's like 36-0. So Boots just doesn't have that recognition. The big fight with Crawford, when he fought out there in Vegas, brought him. A lot of people didn't know Terrence Crawford either, but that one fight made him popular. And I get in arguments with Frank before the show, and I'm like, listen, why wouldn't Crawford want to fight the best welterweight available? And even if it's not a big draw the first time, if it's a great fight, the second time it's going to be a big draw. I think Crawford, I bug him. I say Crawford's ducking him. I don't think he's ducking him. I think he's concerned because he wants to move up in weight, that if Boots does beat him, then maybe he has to, kind of start all over again. So I think, listen, I think Boots is going to be great. I think it's great he's out of Philadelphia. Philadelphia's has had a great boxing scene for years historically, and I think Boots is really going to be something special. 31-0 right now. I mean, this guy's doing something, and I wish
with
they
like
boxed
26
more.
knockouts. That's the big deal with 26 knockouts. So that's obviously they were showing some of the knockouts. When he hits you with that one punch, it gets you. It gets
Yeah.
you. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like that's what happened. That's what happened last night. And I guess I want to say that the fight was called by the doctor because I didn't think that Avanesian was in such a bad shape. I think the doctor said no. You know,
Yeah.
that he had suffered some type of concussion during that fight. So
Yeah, definitely exciting stuff. Something new, somebody new. I mean, I know he holds a belt, but he's just not known. And you know, when you were on the programs before, he said, "I never heard of Boots Ennis," but now you have, and he's a very exciting fighter. So, I just wanted to talk before we got to the boxing thing about the way coaches are today. You know, we talk about Sirianni. If he doesn't do well this year, you know, maybe they fire him or something. Tom Landry, when he took over as a team that was an expansion team to Dallas at the time was called the Steers and the Rangers and finally the Cowboys, ended up going 0-4 first seasons. He had terrible seasons where he had 4 wins and he was getting worse. The Dallas Cowboys signed him to a 10-year extension. And can you imagine that today? Can you imagine Sirianni getting worse in the next 2 years, falling down, and he'll say, well, guess what? We're going to sign you to a 10-year extension. Pretty interesting. It's changed, right? So pretty interesting stuff. Anything else you guys got before we go? Because not a lot of NFL. We got the boxing, which I'm glad we got in before the end. I was going to do that anyway. Anything else you guys got before we take off here a little early?
The last time I checked, the Phillies were still the best team in baseball.
Yes, they are. Definitely are.
They are. Sure.
It's the All-Star break.
But not only the All-Star break though, but they've got 61 wins. You know, I guess they'll get 62 today. You know, at least it's suspected because we are playing the A's. It's, you know, the Yankees going back and forth. Obviously, that may have they may have needed that bench clearing brawl last night. You know,
you might be right.
To get themselves energized some. You know, it's just you could tell that they were very stagnant. You know, watching on my channel a Yankees show, which really pisses me off, by the way, but I let it go. But I get to find out a lot more about the Yankees. I'm glad I don't have to talk about it as much with you guys as I used to. But it's like I don't know. I think that. I told you, I said at the very beginning, I thought that the Phillies had a mission that they make the last out of this season. And I still 100% believe that even the injuries aren't slowing us down.
Listen,
your pitching is great.
Yes, that is a great point. And the Phillies are on fire right now. They've been on fire. I know the Phillies normally do it the opposite way. They come back after the All-Star break. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think you're loaded, Pags. You got one of the better teams in the NL. I'm not worried about the Yankees. Their pitching has to straighten out. Judge is amazing, that's for sure. I mean, the guy is you make a mistake on him, it's gone. You know, he's an amazing hitter. And Soto doesn't hurt either. So maybe we see maybe the Phillies and Yankees, maybe we get together at the end of the year. We'll see what happens. But there are a lot of good teams out there. The Dodgers, you can't take the Dodgers out of it. You can't take Houston out of it. The Astros. I mean, there's so many teams. Once you get to the playoffs, I mean.
But what do you think about the Wets? I mean, they are really. They got hot for a minute, then they got cold again. It's, if you're the owner of that team, after you invested all that money, then had to give all that money away. And now you're having a season similar to this. What do you think their thoughts are? Where do you think they go from here?
What do you think, James? Any thoughts on the Mets?
I mean, they're still under 500. I mean, has the trade deadline passed already?
No, not until the 31st.
Yeah, they still need to get rid of they need to just clean house. They're not close, I think. But go ahead and just start over and start from scratch and build again.
What it tells me, Pags, is it shows you just because you got money, you can buy players and sign them to contracts. Doesn't mean you're going to be a winner. You know, all them years they talked about Steinbrenner buying players. You still had to have the right managers. You still had to get the right players. You still had, you know, I think that Cohen is a fan of the Mets, and I think he just said, I'm going to do what I can to build this team and make it, you know, get the best players and sign them at big contracts, and we're going to win. And baseball just doesn't work like that.
Well, I think he got great players, but I don't think he got leaders. He got great players, and that was the problem. When you get great players, you get egos. When you get leaders, you start building a culture. And I feel like that's part of the thing. I feel like that's the difference right now with the Phillies. The Phillies have leaders that are leading, you know, and they're all like, you got a lot of young kids, but you got Harper, you got Schwarber. You know, Schwarber's the mouth, Harper's the attitude, and then you got Turner, who is just quiet confidence. And then you got the kids.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture, Pags. I mean, you know, I don't think Lindor maybe one of the better shortstops. Nemo's okay. I mean, they overpaid him. They overpaid Davis. I mean, he overpaid a lot of players that are good, but they're not a Harper. You know, they're not that kind of quality of player. I think you pay the ones that deserve to be paid, and you kind of, you know, if this guy like center field Nemo, good player. But there's players out there just as good. I think they really wasted a lot of money and a lot of you know, resources on somebody like that. I think that's where he made his mistakes. Alonso, great power, defensively, average. You know, he's a very good player. But will he deserve the big contract that he's going to want at the end of this year and stay with the Mets?
And not paying for pitching. Them not paying for pitching is hurting them.
Big time. Well. All right, folks. Thank you, Philly. Yes, James, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say, you asked a while back, what did I think Aaron Judge would be for home runs by the end of the season? And I said 45. Clearly, I am totally wrong, and I can admit that. He's got 34 before the All-Star break, and I think that's a franchise record for them. So I could see him breaking 62 this season for sure, maybe 65 or so.
The key to Aaron Judge is he has his own personal hitting coach. He doesn't use the Yankees hitting coach, and it's working out for him. So, I mean, you know, the extra stuff that you do prepares you to be better. So anyway, yeah, but you can't just win the World Series with a great power hitter. You need a whole team to do that, and the Yankees have got to get that together if they want to go up and face, you know, the better teams in the AL and the NL. So. Anyway, folks,
look at Ohtani. Look at Ohtani. Ohtani doing his thing, and they still got swept by the Phillies.
Great point, man. Great point, Pags. I mean, and that team is, and the Dodgers are supposedly loaded. I mean, talk about spending money. What is it, $1 billion or something they paid on that payroll? Something ridiculous. I mean,
yeah, $1.2 billion.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Wow. Folks, thanks for joining us. Pags, thanks for coming in. Enjoyed hearing about the one of my favorite fighters. Boots Ennis. James, great job. Jack, thanks. And Keith, thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned for other shows here on the Roku channel. And Pags, of course, Coast to Coast. And James is always on the Prim and Proper show, whether he's with the guys or without the guys or, you know, whatever they're doing over there. Just check out Prim and Proper Sports. You'll see him. Have a good one, folks. Thanks for spending your Sunday with us.